So if you're 30 years old, you only have 47 years to go. Well, a little bit more on that later. Anyways, how do you know you're setting yourself up in your 30s so that you can retire when you want and live the life that you want in retirement and so forth? My name's Tony, I work at Wealthfront. I'm gonna give you the top priorities that you should focus on in your 30s to set yourself up for success. So when it comes to personal finance, the truth is that some things change as you get older. What's good for a 20-year-old isn't always the best thing for a 30-year-old, and so forth. Now, one thing that never changes is the power of time. Whether in your 20s or 30s or so forth, time is always your most important factor. The earlier you start, the better off you'll be long term. Never forget that. For many 30-year-olds, if you're anything like me, you thought you would have had it figured out by now, right? You had paid off all your student debt, you got rid of your credit card debt, you had hundreds of thousands of dollars set up for retirement, your 401k, your IRAs. You thought you would have done that by now. I hadn't done that, and everyone goes at their own pace, and that's fine. We all know we should have started earlier, but you can't go back in time and change the things you did in your 20s. So let's put that in the past. Let's focus on what you can do today, going forward in your 30s, and put yourself in a better position for wherever you're at. All right, so let's get back to that expectancy thing, right? The Social Security Administration Actuarial Life Table predicts that if you're 30 years old, you have 47 years left to live. Now, we don't go about our lives thinking, oh, I have 47 years left to live. I better start saving today. I better take care of my debt. We don't do that, all right? But what you can do is kind of think ahead. And if, let's say, you have around 50 years left to go, average lifespan, you want to spend a decent amount of that retired. We don't all want to work the rest of our lives. I personally don't. The earlier I can retire and the better quality life I can live in retirement, I want to start taking steps to get me there right now. Let's focus on the 4 things that you can do in your 30s going forward. First off, focus on investing in that taxable investment account. So you may have other accounts like a 401k, Roth, or a traditional IRA. Your 30s is a great time to start considering really prioritizing a taxable investment account. Now, goes without saying, right? Anything that you plan to use in the next few years, let's say under 3 to 5 years, you don't want to invest that. Anything outside of that, you may want to consider investing in a taxable investment account. Taxable investment accounts offer a little bit higher degree of flexibility than their other counterparts, maybe like IRAs or 401ks, in the sense that you can always withdraw your funds, contributions, earnings, without any type of withdrawal penalties. You just got to keep in mind that you may have to owe taxes on that. Another factor you may want to think about is that when you're saving in a taxable investment account, there are certain brokerages that allow you to borrow from that balance and actually use a certain percentage of that balance to use as a loan. It's just another factor to keep in mind that you can't always get from other retirement accounts. Next, you may want to start considering saving for that big home purchase. Many people dream of buying the home, but never know when the right time is to start. Well, if you're in your 30s and you might consider doing that at some point in your life, now's the time to start. We always suggest, right, if you're gonna spend the money and you're gonna use that for a home in the next 3 to 5 years, keep it in a savings account. But if you consider that it may be later in your 30s or even farther than that you buy a home, consider investing that in a taxable investment account or other options like that. Just keep in mind that you don't wanna invest those funds and take on more market risk through investing if you need those funds within the next few years. Imagine finding the perfect home, and all of a sudden, all your funds are in an investment account, and you have to withdraw them and owe a bunch of taxes on them. You're looking at someone who did that. Personally, we had to do it. We didn't plan necessarily accordingly. Now, we got the home we wanted, but we ended up paying a lot more taxes than we expected. And considering the risk that you're taking, imagine you're looking for a home, you have your funds saved up, but it's sitting in an investment account. The market takes a 10% hit. You don't want to be in that situation. No one wants to find the home they want and then end up not being able to buy it because they just simply took on too much risk. Always weigh the risk-reward potential there. And then next, if you plan to have kids at some point or already do, you might want to start thinking about the cost of college. Now, we all know it's increasing exponentially, and who knows what the actual cost will be, in 18 years for the future children when they go to school. All we know is the biggest factor here is time. If you know you have that many years to save, start considering saving in a tax advantage account like a 529. These 529 college savings accounts are meant to grow tax-free, and then you can use the investments in there for college expenses like books, tuition, room and board, laptops, all those things. In the end, if you're going to save for your child's college expense, you want to take advantage of the best tax benefits here, and that would be in a 529 college savings account. Another hack to think about that not everyone knows about is even if you don't have those children yet, you can still open a 529 account in your name. Start getting ahead on the savings and investing. Change the beneficiary when your child is born and given a social security number, and at that point, you've already kind of gotten ahead of the game. 529 accounts also have really high limits that you can contribute per year. So some people like to super fund it up front and basically throw in all their college expenses right away. Not everyone has that much cash to invest right away. So really here, think about the college 529 account similar to a Roth IRA with much higher limits. The reason for this, Roth IRAs and college 529 accounts are both post-tax, right? You've already been taxed on it. You're putting in contributions. You're letting those funds grow. And when you withdraw the funds for qualified expenses, and in this case for college expenses, you're not taxed on the contributions or earnings. You can contribute up to $15,000 per year per person to a 529. So a married couple can contribute a total of $30,000 per year. So you gotta be aware of that limit. Lastly, let's all remember that you gotta keep those same priorities going that you had in your 20s. Get that emergency savings set up, get that credit score in check, pay down that high interest debt first, and then overall tackle some debt, and then start thinking about investing as well. If you are focusing on those priorities in your 20s, and then you add on the priorities in your 30s as well, you can really set yourself up to take advantage of your biggest asset, time, and grow that wealth long term. So to wrap up, you want to start focusing on that taxable investment account. You want to prepare for that potential home purchase at some point, whether it's saving or investing, depending on time. You want to start thinking about your children's college expenses in the future. And you also want to remember all the priorities in your 20s to continue focusing on those as well. All right, thanks again for joining us here. I'm Tony from Wealthfront. We'll see you soon.